Ring of Pain is a tactical permadeath dungeon crawler with a big yellow bird that looks like you gave Sesame Street to those people that make those Garfield comics. And if you don't know what that means, then maybe I spend too much time on the internet. It's an odd game in that the way it plays feels like a Slay the Spire-esque deck building roguelike, in that you don't really move around, instead you're just presented with fights and rooms. Attacking is fully about semi-deterministic tactics where enemy moves are known or telegraphed, and as you progress, the gameplay is all about accumulating the right items to prepare you for later floors, which make you stronger and add little bonuses to what you can do. And I feel that's worth saying because it gives an immediate sense of how Ring of Pain feels to play, even though mechanically it doesn't bear much similarity at all. Ring of Pain might have cards in it, but only as a stylistic choice to easily convey attributes and abilities. In Ring of Pain, you fight through a series of dungeon floors by defeating creepy monsters, stocking up on powerful equipment, and finding your way from door to progress towards victory. That's all pretty standard stuff, but what isn't standard in Ring of Pain is that every single dungeon floor is a literal ring of pain. Each floor of the dungeon is represented by a set of cards laid out in a circle ahead of you, where 2 cards are positioned at the front as the things that you can interact with and that can interact with you. When one of these 2 cards is picked up, defeated, or just explodes, the next card in the ring rotates in to take its place. If you want to get to a card that's currently out of reach, you have some freedom to shuffle left and right around the circle, but moving past an enemy risks giving them a free attack depending on your stealth. Attacking enemies is based on a simple attribute system of attack, block, speed, and health. Speed determines who strikes first, and damage dealt is attack power minus block. You also have a crit chance for double damage and a dodge chance to avoid attacks, but those start off as quite low percentages and aren't always going to be significant. Killing an enemy grants you souls, which act as Ring of Pain's currency for chests and items, but with health in short supply, damage taken in combat can prove fatal. The final attribute not mentioned is something called Clarity, which doesn't directly affect combat, but will make it easier to heal and gain souls. Managing these attributes is key to success in Ring of Pain, and the way you'll improve them is items. You'll spend souls to open chests containing the equipment that you'll need to become more powerful as the game progresses, to counter the increasingly dangerous enemies. In Ring of Pain, you have 15 different equipment slots at the bottom of the screen, covering things like weapons, helmets, shields, and spellbooks. Every item you find will increase or decrease some basic attributes, and most items will also have another bonus effect on the body of the card. This could be things like gaining more health from potions, dealing damage to cards outside your reach, or adding effects to your attacks like poison, freeze, or petrify. Eventually, once you've killed all the enemies or snuck past the last 1 or 2, you'll be able to bring the exits to the front and decide which one to go through. And you'll need to survive 16 floors to win the game, but they only get tougher and tougher. Before anything else, it's worth praising Ring of Pain's artistic design and tone. I remember seeing this game in early access a couple of years ago, and while I never played it, the creepy, demented yellow bird mascot did have me interested and made Ring of Pain instantly recognisable whenever it popped up on Steam. I really like the tone the devs have gone for with this creepy, horror-inspired design. The enemies are long-limbed creatures hunched over, humanoid figures bound together in slime, or whatever the hell this is. And despite being represented as cards, the enemies still get these little swaying animations that make them all look properly threatening. I mean, look at this thing. You don't even have to look at the card to know that this is a creature that will stalk you until you die. The music matches this with a lot of unsettling sounds, and it makes a cohesive overall design and a great atmosphere for a tricky permadeath game. In its gameplay, Ring of Pain has a nice balance of longer-term planning in the items and equipment, while putting heavy emphasis on turn-to-turn tactics as you navigate each ring. While every item can improve your attributes in some way, just randomly picking things up as you find them isn't going to get you very far. Health is your most important resource, and so when fighting enemies you'll either need to be blocking most of the damage, or you'll need to hit so hard and so fast that you just don't get touched at all. Whenever you open chests, you'll be presented with 2 options for what to take, but you can spend extra souls to re-roll these items if neither are going to help you. But re-rolling quickly becomes expensive, and there's an art to deciding when something is good enough to keep you going, without wasting too many souls that could be spent on better items later. Acquiring items and improving levels is one of those things in games that is just always good fun, and by having so many slots for items, this is a satisfaction that you get in Ring of Pain constantly. After you've made a few semi-successful runs, you'll have a better idea of the threats these dungeons pose, and knowing the different enemy types and effects you're going to see will let you plan more effectively. The turn-to-turn gameplay is a snappy, fast-paced affair, but one that still has room for clever tactical gameplay. Ring of Pain is a semi-deterministic game in that for the most part, you can predict exactly what the outcome of any move will be. If you attack an enemy, then based on your speeds, defences and damage, you know who's going to come off better in that fight. In fact, Ring of Pain even has a great quality of life feature in that it highlights on your health bar exactly how much damage you can take if you perform the action you're hovering on. In the circle, you can see what other cards are going to be arriving if you go left or right. Either explicitly what card it is, or at the very least whether it's a monster, item or potion, and so you can plan a route and choose which way to go. If I fight the enemy on the left, then I run into another enemy, but if I attack on the right, then I can upgrade with an item before going back the other way and potentially saving myself some health. Later enemies throw more quirks into the mix with details revolving around this circle-based design. Some enemies will move towards you turn by turn, some enemies can block you in one direction until they're killed, some enemies will attack unprovoked if you let them get to the front. You've got to think about the enemies and cards in front of you, the ones behind them, the quirks they might have and the bonus effects you've got from your equipment, and then make a decision based on both the deterministic and random contributions. But every turn you've only got a maximum of 6 possible actions, and it's usually fewer. So these actions feed into a small decision space that still allows for snappy gameplay. But because your tactics will look a turn or so ahead, there is still room in there to manoeuvre and spot a good tactical play. I think my only real negative with Ring of Pain, and the reason I'm probably not going to play this so much beyond my 10 or so hours, is that builds do feel like they lack a little bit of variety. In a game like Slay the Spire, which I've said has a similar feel to Ring of Pain despite the differing mechanics, while there is the challenge of trying to build your deck despite the randomness, you will always be able to make some sort of functioning synergistic engine with good play. You might have to take imperfect cards to survive in the short term, but if you're good at the game, you will find your feet before the end. And this is true of a lot of highly tactical roguelikes. Synergistic abilities where the effects combine to produce something almost game-breaking is one of the genre's biggest joys. In Ring of Pain, I felt like whether I'd done badly or done well, there wasn't really a defining feature to what I'd made other than good attributes. And that could be in different ways, with a lot of health or a lot of block or high attack and speed, but you'd sort of see which way you were going in the early game and then just build on it. It's still good, but levelling up base attributes isn't as sharp in its satisfaction as coming up with really tight synergies and a well-defined build. There are some cards that allow for quirky, interesting strategies, including the potential to win with just 4 out of 15 items, but these will require very, very specific combinations that you're not guaranteed to get, and if you waste any time at all looking for them, then you'll fall behind in the attribute race and just lose. It's not that the design of Ring of Pain is bad. The more scrambling nature of throwing together items that will just keep you at the level you need is still an interesting challenge, but I definitely prefer more opportunity for game-breaking combos in my permadeath games, because they're the only genre that can really do that. Overall, I've got to say that I really enjoyed Ring of Pain. I'm a fan of when games nail this sort of deterministic tactics gameplay and keep it fast and light, but without making it trivial. The presentation of Ring of Pain is really good and facilitates the gameplay with a clean design, while adding so much to the atmosphere with its creepy characters. Even though this is not my top game in its genre, I have very much enjoyed the challenge, and if you're looking for more tactical strategy games, then take a step into the Ring of Pain. This guy will happily be your friend.